Hello, Hockey World. Welcome to your other screen. And we are here tonight to talk to you as we're all watching the same thing together with you. As we're watching the draft of the Seattle Expansion Draft right now. And Gary Bettman is addressing the crowd now.
Are they booing him? Are they booing him?
He was greeted to a thunderous boo. Yes, he was indeed. Just why not, right? Like Seattle.
Who's the guy that awarded you a franchise?
Yeah,
That's always
he
a good
joked.
idea.
What was that, Kev?
Yeah, he said that they were NHL ready because they booed him. So
yeah,
you can't argue with that.
Yeah, he's good at that. He's good at he's learned this game. But then they are cheering him now as they welcome him to the expansion draft.
It would have been good if they had an orca sort of splash its tail and splash Gary. That would have been good.
Yeah, or a giant kraken arm grab him and pull him.
I was going to say the orca. Where were we in Vancouver here?
Yeah, we need that.
Seattle's got him.
We need a big so.
Or watch the walk on stage, but anyway.
So we're here. We have a signing to get into. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things as we go here and see what happens. I've got TSN on here. I've got ESPN2 over here. So we'll try to keep you up to date with everything that's happening there as too. But thanks, Timothy. I'd rather listen to Eklund's voice.
Great. The noted hockey expert Chris Fowler is the host.
Okay. All right. So
here we go. This is where we all start to complain. Apparently about who's going to be hosting on ESPN.
I'm good at
complaining. Real quick, Mike. It's going to get old real quick tonight.
I'm good at
Anthony. Michael complaining is a shock to you.
I'm good at complaining, so I'll just say I love the
lead. Go ahead. Sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I was just going to say we were only 1 minute and 33 seconds into the Seattle expansion team's life, and Michael Jello was already complaining about something.
I'm not complaining.
And it was Chris Fowler being the.
I'm not complaining about Seattle. I'm complaining about the fact that ESPN led into the expansion draft with that great hockey-related X Games, and now we have Chris Fowler, who's probably never watched a hockey game in his life. He's been doing too much college football, and now he's doing.
Were you complaining about OLN back in the day? I'm serious. You were complaining about OLN at the same time.
That was deserved.
No,
not more than
I was doing a podcast when Mike was complaining. I was doing a podcast with Mike when Mike was complaining about OLN. Yeah, that's a long.
I wrote for Versus, so
Mike probably had a tweet like OLN couldn't bait my hook.
Man, all right. So a lot of today has been ruined by Frank Saravelli and everybody else. But we're gonna, and I heard the funny thing about that was just the NHL is not too thrilled about that. Of course. What can you do? It was destined to happen. If one person starts releasing it, then everybody's going to talk about it, right? For sure.
Thanks, Mob Talk.
See, if Saravelli was really good, he would have done what Adrian Wojnarowski did and basically changed the verbiage as to selected, right? He would have changed. I hear they're interested in, they're targeting. That would have been a better way of doing it.
Go ahead, Kev.
Kevin. Well, I was just going to say, let me give you a different take on what the league feels on this. I happen to be talking for something else I was doing with an NHL executive, and I said, well, you guys have got to be, pretty outraged by all this. He goes, oh, no, not to the contrary. We had all day people talking about the expansion, and now we're going to go into a television show where they'll talk about the trades and everything else. He said, we had 2 kicks at the cans. He said, I keep seeing how we're unhappy about this. And all we've been talking about all day long is that we've been the center of attention for a very lengthy period of time. So
I'll say
now, he could have been spinning me.
I will say this, Kevin. This is what I'll say. It isn't the NHL who's mad about this. It's probably ESPN far more like.
Well, ESPN's definitely mad.
ESPN's the one who's probably not happy about this because they can't control the information.
Right. Yeah, because all those videos that Kevin Weeks filmed at the Seattle market with the fish, they're all wasted now because we know who the picks are.
We do, but do we know who's going to stick around? I think that's the big thing. That's the big thing we have to worry about tonight because the drama tonight is are we going to see some of these guys that they picked, some of them that were kind of oddly selected, and some of them kind of off the board. Were they asked to select those players by other teams?
For
trades?
Or in the case of there are two stand out to me. The John Quenneville selection for Chicago, that signals to me that there's a trade, that they wanted them to stay away from somebody, and they took Quenneville, so Chicago might have something there. And Alexander True for San Jose,
that one's the big standout.
And other ones out there that are a little more fishy.
Kevin Kurtz is reporting that there is no side deal or anything like that with regards to True. So Kurtz said otherwise.
So, Mike, I find it interesting you use the word fishy when we're talking about Seattle here, and you just had a problem.
Thank you.
Man, this is going to be we're how many minutes in now? Hold on. 8 minutes into this show, and we've oh wow.
And can we talk about
we should start a bingo contest at this point.
Let's get go ahead, Ralph.
I want to mention how much of an overpayment this is on the Alexiak deal for a bottom pairing defenseman who blocks shots and he hits people. He is a decent skater, but he has turnovers. He doesn't score a lot of points. He doesn't play a ton of minutes. I mean, he will play a ton of minutes for Seattle, and you've given him $4.6 million.
So obviously he's not a bottom pair defenseman in their estimation.
But he's getting paid. This is like you getting, going for a job, and they're like, all right, even though, Anthony, you went for this job as assistant manager, we're going to make you manager, and we're going to pay you this much instead. That's what
they see value in what I get. They see value in what I provide. Kevin. Same way that the Kraken right now see value in Alexiak. I don't have it's a premium, but I'm not. I think people are just
Kevin
complaining about this deal. It's free agency.
Alexiak strikes me, Kevin, as a high risk, high reward defenseman. That's what we saw when in the playoffs when the Stars made the run to the Cup final. And they've got money to burn, but I don't like the signing for the term, and I don't like the signing for the amount, because maybe he's a mid pairing defenseman for them, but I think for most teams he's a bottom pairing guy.
Yeah, well, he was a middle pairing guy for Dallas.
Yeah, he was.
This season.
Right.
He started. He started to play well. After Eck had brought him up on a previous show, and so I asked the Dallas Stars about him, and they were desperately trying to re-sign him. They thought he just was a late bloomer.
Yep.
And he's a pretty effective player. Like for them, he had done a very good job for him. They thought he was going to get or at least he said he thought he would get somewhere a little bit above $4 million, and he got 4.6. So yeah, it's funny, but I thought this signing, I thought the Kraken got away with one with Lawson. I think if he would have gone to open market, he might have got a little more than that. Like, I don't think he was going to crack $5 million, but I think he could have gotten the 4.5 million. Yeah, and so they got him for a little bit less. One point, and I'll bet Russ picked up on this because he's much sharper on these things than I am. But I just happened to be trying to piece together a Kraken defense, and they only have 2 right-hand shots of all those defensemen.
Yeah, I noticed that,
which really struck me as unusual.
Yeah.
Larson. Now, they officially announced Jeremy Lawson as the first pick. That was the first one, Anthony?
Yes, he was the first announcement. They're basically going through the Atlantic Division right now. Okay. So it'll be all Atlantic Division announcements here.
Give us a little synopsis on Lawson.
Lawson's a guy who's hard to play against. Like, he's a guy who has attitude. He hits people. I know people highlighted a few of his turnovers in the playoffs, but he's a younger player still. He's a good puck mover. He's never going to score you much in points, but he is very hard to play against, and he definitely can give a defensive pairing an attitude that the other team is not going to want to play against.
And if people want to follow along, I'm updating Cap Central on HockeyBuzz as the picks are being made. So Lawson.
How much cap space do they have right now, Mike? What much cap space is here?
They have $80,650,000.
Keep updated on that as the night goes on. Right now, they have $80 million in cap space. Mike will be updating us as the night goes on.
So Will Borgen just went off the board. So we're 2 for 2 right now.
Yes, and that great hot.
They're going Atlantic, right? So it looks like it's an alpha order, right?
That great hockey Hall of Famer Lenny Wilkens, maybe.
Lenny Wilkens, basketball.
Oh,
Seattle
enough,
player.
Mike. You're the get off the lawn guy. Cheaper. Enough.
See,
Stop.
Lenny Wilkens means a lot to
using
Seattle.
celebrities. I want Sean Kemp to announce one.
Where's Jack Sickba when you need him?
Let's just accept the
He's
fact
doing that tippy toe jump shot, Michael.
So, Mike, this is what I want you to do. I want you to tell us when you find something that you like tonight. Okay?
There you go.
We don't have that long. I can't stay on for that long.
We'll see. Mike, you tell us the first thing that you enjoy from this broadcast tonight.
Sure. Well,
All right, let's talk about Will Borgen. Russ, what do you got?
Well, yeah, I like him. He's a strong kid physically. He's a decent skater. He can play a fair amount of minutes. Like, he is a guy that you could pile some minutes on.
Yeah.
Good defender. He's not going to give you much in offense, but he could be a very good defensive defenseman. He's not quite where he's going to be yet, but he's getting close. And I just feel like he was sort of slipping through the cracks in Buffalo. He was.
He was never really given an opportunity with the Sabres,
right?
Which is unbelievable because, you know, their defense, especially when they had some injuries, and, you know, they traded some players away. He even then didn't get an opportunity. And then I think he got hurt later in the year. So I think this was probably the best option for Seattle. So there you go, Eck. There's the positive. This was a good pick by Seattle.
No, I'm not saying a positive about Seattle. I want to hear a positive about ESPN. That's what I want to hear, Mike. I'm waiting for that.
Well, they haven't. Their signal hasn't cut out. So there you go.
Okay. Now we're seeing pictures of the Seattle Aquarium, and we're now going to Dennis Cholowski, from the Detroit Red Wings. You're wondering who the Detroit Red Wings are. Kevin, did they like Dennis Cholowski? What was the deal with him?
No, they really didn't. He was very slow to develop. He has offensive skill, to be sure. He scored in his first NHL game, as they just put up there on the television screen. But he just isn't assertive. Like, he just kind of goes through the motions defensively, and he gives off the impression of not being fully devoted to what's going on the ice. And I don't think that's true. Obviously he cares, but that's how he looked. The fan base really wanted him exposed, and they wanted to keep Stetcher. And Stetcher is, was actually a healthy scratch at the year, but he plays with energy. He steps up into the play. So they got their wish. They would have kept Cholowski. They would have protected him if they wouldn't have made the trade for Nick Leddy, and then that forced him into leaving unprotected. Because what they planned to do was give him his chance this season.
But he was going to get a shot.
Here's the problem, and it's going to be a problem. Well, yeah, but the problem is going to be with the Kraken as well. Is he's totally out of options. He's a 216 draft pick, so he's got to make the team, or he's got to go through waivers.
Well, this has got to be.
I think someone else would take him.
He was always going to be a little bit,
but he was going to get his chance in Detroit too. And
okay.
Well, he was always going to be a little bit of a project because I think he came from the BCHL. So he was always going to be like one of those guys that was going to be 24, 25 when he was going to develop. Like, that was part of it. But he's got a little Travis Sanheim in him in the sense that he's sort of rangy. And actually, that's where I think, Kevin's talking about some of the things he is. But he still could turn out to be a decent defenseman.
Is there any benefit to a player who, having played on Detroit, a town that is known for a connection with octopuses, to now play on the Kraken? I'm just curious. I mean, this. I think this. There's. I mean, this is going to be an easier transition for him, perhaps.
For sure, and I like the reference. And secondly, though, this as hard as this is to believe, he would have had an easier time playing for the Red Wings this year than he'll have for the Kraken. And when you look at who he's facing for competition on the Kraken, he's going to have a hard time getting in that lineup. In Detroit, they were going to hand him a spot.
A lot of good defense, and but this I appreciate you acknowledging the cephalopod connection there, and we'll see what happens after that. Neither of those animals, by the way, are my favorite cephalopod. I'll reveal my favorite cephalopod later in the show.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
I just want to answer Funky Eck. I get that you wanted Chychrun now. I get it. And even during that draft, Chychrun was a definite guy that was on a lot of boards. The thing about Cholowski was people liked his upside, and they kept looking at his upside, and that's why they drafted him. It's not like they thought he was better than Chychrun. They thought there's more upside there because Chychrun was kind of like already this man who you kind of had a good idea of what kind of defenseman he was going to be. And I just think that's the reason they picked him. I mean, it happens with a lot of picks.
Yeah, well, they didn't have a choice. Chychrun was gone because
he was
he went with
so
the.
What are you talking about, Funky?
Yeah,
right. I thought it was earlier. Yeah.
No, didn't they trade?
What happened was, right. Yeah, what happened was they gave their pick. The Red Wings gave their pick to Arizona to take Datsuk's contract. So on the Red Wings pick, Arizona took Chychrun. And then and the fan base had wanted them to take Chychrun because he had fallen down the ranks, and people liked him because he was a man-child.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
Yeah.
Chris Dreger has just been picked by the Panthers.
Yeah, this is I want to talk about this one for a second because I mean, honestly, he's a good goalie. He played very well for the Panthers this year. He was a UFA, and I was a little bit surprised that I think he sees this as, well, this is where I can go and start, right? This is where the only place I can go and start in the NHL, perhaps.
Maybe.
Because otherwise, why does a UFA sign this quickly? We talked about earlier. Kevin Larson. He could have gotten more. Alexiak, I think, could have gotten more too. Maybe not everybody agrees with that, but
oh, no way.
I do. I think he could have. I honestly do. The way people were talking about him, I think he could have gotten a little bit more.
He hit the jackpot,
He did hit the jackpot.
I think you guys are under it, but we'll debate that another time. But let's just talk about Dredger for a second.
Yeah, there you go.
Should Dredger have waited? And I mean, they could have waited, and they could have taken somebody else from the Panthers. They could have taken somebody else.
Was he going to be a number one anywhere else?
Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I just think that this is his best chance to be a number one. I think someone maybe could have given him a chance to compete, but nobody was going to hand him the job. And I'm not sure they're handing it here too. He'll have to compete a little bit, but clearly he's the guy they wanted most. And and this team, he knows they're going to get a good making here.
Well, I mean, okay, he's got 28 starts or 25 starts or 35 starts.
38 NHL career games. 35.
No, but that was the 3 of the playoff games. So 35 starts, and his save percentage is in the 930s. So, that short sample size, I understand why. Now we haven't heard the amount. I heard it's in the
3.3.
I heard 3.5 mil per is the rumor I had seen earlier today.
For 3 years.
Right.
3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like Pierre Maguire, but he really was good in juniors, and then he did kind of get lost in the shuffle for a while in the NHL. He did.
But it
is possible he is good. Because I've seen him good before his NHL career.
Russ, what it strikes me as is this is a Scott Darling contract. He was good as a backup or a 1B in Chicago, and then he hit the jackpot with the deal with Carolina. And I don't know whether
I don't have the same feeling about this as I did Darling. I did feel that way about Darling. I don't have that feeling.
I refer you to one Philippe Grubauer, who got 3 years, $10 million from Colorado after playing in Washington. Dredger was probably their best, most consistent goaltender the last 2 years for the Panthers. I disagree. It doesn't strike me as a Darling kind of contract either.
Cale Fleury for Montreal.
I mean, not Carey Price,
which we mentioned.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Come on, you got to.
What is there to talk about?
You guys are ridiculous. All right, so Cale Fleury, we talked about. He's a good pickup for them. I mean, he's a good pickup. He's another defenseman. They are going heavy on the defense here.
It was an expectation, Eric. I thought it was going to be. It was between him and Byron for me. It was either of those two.
I will question right now. This is going to be like a scoring by committee team, as we've said. They are that kind of team. They've not set up. They don't really have any powerhouses up front.
They have a great third line. The problem is it's a first line.
Well, no, they have like a second line and 2 third lines and a fourth line is what I think they have right now.
You mean this actually looks like a traditional expansion team?
Right.
Yeah,
A little
but,
bit better than a
scoring by
traditional
committee
draft.
means that you don't have scoring. That's the reason.
Well, but again,
We should go back and play the tape when the Vegas draft happened and see if everybody was saying the
right.
same
Nobody
thing.
thought they were making the playoffs then. But we
I
also
had this
have-
conversation with several people, including Bill Meltzer, about how if we go back and look, Fleury was a cast-off from Pittsburgh. That was probably the most. You have Carlson was a fourth-line center.
True.
You have Riley Smith, who was a speedy third-liner for Boston.
And they were
Ray
giving
McNabb was kind of in the mix in LA, sort
and
of.
they were giving Marchessault to take.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not ready to, even after this evening, people are ready to sort of make predictions about what this team's going to be. And
yeah, I'm not ready to do that.
It's day one.
No, it's very hard.
They have a ton of cap room still remaining because they save the money as opposed to spending on the big pricey guys.
Right.
But also, when we're talking about scoring, though, we got to remember, let's say Colin Blackwell's the guy from the Rangers, and it turns out to be that. He could score 20 goals for them. He only started – just give me a minute, Jan. He has more to give. This was his first really big chance in the NHL. I don't think he was just a Quinn guy.
What I was going to say was the question is if he is going to remain there, because some of the rumors are
we'll see.
Part of the deal coming back to New York if it happens.
Now,
Cole Lind is a goal scorer. When he gets to be a goal scorer, could be this year, could be next year.
Right.
I mean, so there are guys like that could, reveal themselves.
Now, Kevin, how do you think Tampa feels? Go ahead.
How does who feel about it?
No, I was going to say, how do you think Tampa feels about losing Yanni Gourde in the expansion draft?
Well, let me address a couple of things here. I wanted to agree with Russ completely because historically in every expansion draft, there's always been a guy or two who suddenly looks like a scorer. I mean, think back to the Tampa Bay Lightning when Brian Lee came out of nowhere to be a 40-goal scorer.
Right.
They get their opportunities and play. I agree with Russ that some of these players, whether it's Blackwell or someone else, will rise up just as Riley Smith did last year. I'm curious to see what the deals that were cut between Tampa and Seattle about. I'm thinking they're going to get another forward here. So if at what cost? What did Tampa have to give up? But the other point I want to make all this: think if you're a former Atlanta Thrasher fan, or a Columbus Blue Jacket fan, or a Nashville Predator fan, and you're talking with your fellow fans, you're saying, the Seattle Kraken had Carey Price and Vladimir Tarasenko and a host of other scores there, and they passed on them. And look at what we got, back when they came in. Like it's remarkable when you think of all the players that Seattle didn't take here and what they would have been like for those teams that had to kind of struggle through the old way of doing business when you were an expansion team.
Oh, it's incredible.
Okay, I'll give you.
I completely agree with you.
I'll give ESPN some credit here. They put Jared McCann in a fake Toronto Maple Leaf jersey, even though he's never worn a jersey for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they imposed the blue and white jersey on him.
Okay, so I have
what the hell is that?
I'm going to introduce you tonight to my mask. This is a HockeyBuzz innovation here, So I'm going to be able to put messages up, and when players get signed, I'll be able to have them on this ahead of me. So like, who's the latest player that we had signed? Jared McCann. Let's get him up there.
It looks like a giant ring. It looks like a Seattle Kraken ring.
Well, that's what it is right now. No, right now I put the Seattle Kraken logo on there.
Okay.
So I can put anything I want on here.
Okay.
So
it's like a Dakota ring that just got
blown. What is that exactly, Ek?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks cool.
I'll explain to you later.
It looks like a fencer's mask.
It is like it does look like a fencer's mask, but it's not quite that. Like it has a lot of abilities to do a lot of different things, and I will, as we go along, be adding different things to it. But it's basically it's all the rage in Japan. You wear it like this. You put it like this on, and you have your hoodie. You go into town.
Oh, great! Suddenly this looks like an episode of The Purge. Thanks, Zach.
Exactly.
Great. I didn't know the show was being hosted by Darth Maul.
So there you go. If I had had this all along, I never would have had to not be anonymous. I could have just worn this.
I mean, Eck, give yourself a better looking face while you're at it. I mean,
I can do that.
They just threw a dead fish into the crowd.
there you go.
That's horrible. Okay.
Gee, I didn't know Chris Russell was on the Seattle Kraken.
So they did. They did throw. You know what's weird is right now on Sportsnet when I'm watching.
Marty Moritz. That'd be more.
So I'm watching Sportsnet on the bottom, right? And they continually say players available. They're listing them across the bottom of the screen. And you're seeing like Voracek and all these.
They know.
Why would they put that up there now?
I think at this point they probably should. They don't want to acknowledge.
They're playing along for those that weren't on Twitter paying attention.
This is true. That's the thing, and that's what we all have to remember is that. Right. Not everybody's on Twitter. Not everybody. I mean, word does filter out, but not everybody's going. But again, I do think if you're in Seattle and you have interest in the hockey team, you probably are queuing in on social media in some form or another.
I want to give a shout out to John Shannon for the Upper Deck EPAC commercial that just ran on the broadcast. I want to give a shout out to John. I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah.
I'm going to tweet John.
I mean,
at upperdeckepAC.com.
Oh no, you know what? He's probably watching the Sportsnet one. I don't know if he got that on Sportsnet.
Have you guys been to who here in this crowd has been to Seattle? Spent a lot of time in Seattle.
Russ and I were in 2019.
I've been there twice.
Okay. Yeah, I've been there twice as well. It is a fantastic city.
It's a great walking city.
Great
you walk around, you go to the Space Needle, to the fish market. It's just nice there. There's a million coffee shops if you like coffee, but tea, no problem.
Yeah, but
it's extremely clean there.
But don't try to plug in your phone at
they don't want to. You can't plug in your phone. Mike and I had problems with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody Mob Talk Radio says you look like Nosferatu.
There we go. That's what I'm going for.
Not mildly distracting at all.
I'm sorry. I know. I'll
have
get
a
rid
question
of it
for the crew.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you remember in terms of how the trades were announced in the Vegas expansion? Because it seems to me there should be some trades announced here. Are we going to get them?
I strongly suspect. I'm wondering, Kevin. I strongly suspect we're not going to get this. This seems they want to have this production the way it's running right now, and any announcements will occur after the broadcast.
I thought there was something that on Cap Runner, the expansion trade freeze ended at 1 p.m. tomorrow.
No, well, all I know is
I think you may be correct on that. You may be correct on that, Jan.
All I know is that when we were in Chicago for the expansion draft in 2017, Russ and I were there, and during the broadcast, it was indicated what deals were going to go down. Now, maybe they didn't officially get announced until the trade freeze, but we heard about Alex Tuck and Marchessault, or Alex Tuck and Eric Hall. We heard about Marchessault and Riley Smith. We heard about Colin.
Right.
That all went down. So,
I remember that.
What's on X head right now? Can you look in the camera, please?
No. If you saw it, you saw it. If you didn't, you didn't.
I saw it.
Anyway, no. If I remember right, they did announce those things. I remember being pretty surprised how quickly they announced them too. So tonight, are we going to not hear anything? Is there a 1 p.m. thing? Have we heard that? Is that true?
The trade.
I thought it was 7 p.m.
Yeah, according to Flamester, he says the trade freeze does not include the Seattle trade.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a trade freeze for other teams. They can't actually at this point.
They couldn't hide other players by making deals. That's what I think it was.
Okay, gotcha. So they've gone through the Atlantic division now. I really can't wait to talk. It's interesting. I had a long discussion today about various teams in the and how the Atlantic division shapes up next year and who we think is going to be the forces and who is on the downtrend. It's a really fascinating division.
Okay, I'll since I cover a team in the Atlantic division, I'll take a go at it. I think the 4 playoff teams are Tampa, Toronto, Florida, and Boston. I don't see a change there. Detroit is starting to come up. The Sabres are in a full rebuild, and they're divesting themselves of their major stars. I think Montreal, if they lose Danault, They're going to lose some of their other UFAs. Now that they have some youngsters, you're going to have a full year of Caulfield. You're going to have another year of Suzuki. But I think they're sort of middling. I think the team on the come is Ottawa. I think they're, if they add a couple players, they could fight for the wild card with Florida. But I think that unless Boston takes a major step back, I don't think anything is going to deviate from the top three of Tampa, Boston, and Toronto.
I make no proclamations right now.
I can make one proclamation right now. I will have to say this: that from an aesthetic standpoint, I really, really like the Kraken's jersey. It looks really. When I saw the home jersey on Dridger, it looked really good. I thought schematically it looked good when they originally laid it out for what it was going to look like, but seeing it live, I mean, granted, it is afternoon sun in Seattle, but that jersey pops.
I think I would have liked to have gone instead like with the lighter blue, which is the very famous kind of Seattle color.
I like it though, Eck. I like it like this dark. I think the blue as a highlight color. I could see them potentially doing an alternate jersey, flipping the color, going light blue with dark, maybe as a third jersey eventually.
Seattle Metropolitans third.
Right.
Well, again, if you do a throwback style jersey too,
you could go green and yellow, the old Sonics color, if you really want to go.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far. I think in this circumstance, I think they want to be their own.
You don't want to be
too
close to something like that.
The best dad was the red for the eye.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on the jersey?
I love it. Yeah, I thought when it came out, this is going to be such a hot jersey. Like I don't think there's any doubt about it. And today they leave nothing to chance. Like they pay big bucks to get a top-notch designer. Come up with this stuff, and you could still make it, but they clearly had an idea. When I saw that, I just said like, wow, that's the same thing I felt too with Vegas. I loved Vegas when it came out, but I do like it a lot.
Let's talk about Gavin Bayreuther, who's up now. Russ, what do you know about him?
I got nothing.
Nothing on him. This is kind of a surprising pick, right?
This is another depth. This is a classic depth player for their system.
This smells like a
trade.
A trade.
I mean, it does smell like a trade. He is a 27-year-old, so I don't know how many 27-year-olds you really want to have in the system, but it does smell like a trade.
Yeah,
he is Ben Lovejoy's cousin.
Now, Nathan Bastian, I can talk about.
Okay.
He is a good power forward in the making. He scores a lot down low, and he's got really good hands, very good hands. He needed to get his skating up to par. I think it is up to par. Maybe, New Jersey didn't want him to go near Butcher. We'll find out. But Bastian's a good pick because they did take a ton of defensemen. So while we all thought Butcher, now, they went a different way because of the way they're, making their team. He is a good team builder. This guy was a terrific player in juniors. He started to pick it up in the AHL. He played in the NHL last year. And I do think he's on the right path.
Now, just going back to Columbus for a second, because we all basically picked Max Domi. I mean, that's really.
I picked Carlson. That's who I like better.
But basically what I'm saying is it possible that the injury is so bad that he had surgery on
maybe not so bad, but maybe it's just enough to give Seattle.
I think there's a lot of things with Domi right now. I think it's that. I think it's him not having a good year in like 3 years. I think it's a lot of different things with Domi.
I mean, you have to wonder, right? This is his third team. The situation is just like Kevin mentioned that the other day. He has, we knew he wasn't going to work out Tortorella, but could he have possibly worked out with a new coach? You would think so. I mean, Max Domi's an exciting player. He's a fan. He was a fan favorite in Montreal. They love him.
But we are a few years removed from that, and he's got a lot to prove.
I mean, they've got Jordan Eberle live now wearing the jersey.
I thought they would get everything there.
I really like this acquisition. I just think you've got to get guys that kind of understand the whole concept of scoring goals, and Eberle does. Like he does. He's a consistent goalkeeper. He's not a great goalkeeper, but he knows what he needs to do, and he comes through on a regular basis with goals. And again, not a great goal scorer, but just a consistent goal scorer. So I like this. I know everybody wanted Josh Bailey, and that probably would have been an upgrade, but I thought right from the beginning this would be a good fit for them.
Islanders have certainly got a lot of cap room the last couple of days.
Yeah,
and again, not to go for the aesthetics here, but again, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, they've picked up a ton of cap room, so it's interesting to see how to utilize that cap room. And I mean, I didn't get a chance to hear Ken, you said I was kind of floored that Yzerman gave up a second and also a cap room to get Leddy after last year. For the Rangers to move Stahl, they had to move a second rounder. So I don't know if they're going to get more than a second rounder at the deadline if they move Leddy. So that move just surprised me a lot.
Yes, they will get that because the price on defenseman at the deadline always blows up. If he has a decent year, then I think he'll reap them. Even if it's from a contending team and they retain 50%, they could get a low first. So I think that's possible.
Over the years, Kev, when you've talked to players about going and playing for expansion teams, everybody just assumes, oh man, for a long time I felt like it was something. Oh gosh, like a fate worse than death. You've been picked up, you've been dropped by your team. Essentially, now you're heading to an expansion team where you're going to struggle forever. Has Vegas changed that? For
sure, and it used to be that way. You were going to go to a team that you knew would be horrible. Yeah. And now you're less sure of that. I mean, I think there's excitement to go to Seattle because, just as you said, Vegas was so good, and it's the same set of rules. Although so far we have not seen Ron Francis do the same things that George McPhee did. Doesn't feel like he's been as aggressive as George was. I may be wrong.
We have to wait, but you're right. At this point, it feels like and I think that he's been conservative just down to his coaching choice. I think his coaching choice was conservative.
Let me ask the question to Kevin: is that by design, or is that because NHL teams said we're not going to be held hostage the way George McPhee held us hostage 4 years ago?
Both. But I have said for a while on our podcast, that the GMs have told me they went to school and they were not going to be drawn in. Like the way one GM phrased it to me is, I'm not going to give up 3 players to protect one, which they were doing before, and why you end up with Shea Theodore in Vegas. That's how you ended up with Alex Tuck in Vegas, and they weren't going to make those kind of deals. But I also think that Ron Francis, and this really, I think in final analysis was why he didn't take Carey Price. He has said publicly multiple times that he wants to use the salary cap advantage that he has. Right. And I think that's what finally persuaded him, because I think it was an open-ended question for a couple of days in Seattle about what he was going to do with Carey Price. And then he said, look, that's my plan. I want to be able to have a lot of cap space moving forward. So next year, I can, bring in, once I get a feel for what my team is, I can bring in some high price free agents and really help the team. And I also think Seattle, it's not Vegas per se. There's still more lure to Vegas for a lot of reasons, but Seattle is a destination place. It'd be a nice place to go.
Yeah. It is a beautiful city.
And I think people have already figured out that the fan base there is excited about the team, and they got a lot of things going there. There's a lot of respect for Ron Francis around the league. So I think there's not the same doom and gloom going to Seattle as there was back when you were going to Columbus or Atlanta or.
I can tell you one thing too. I interviewed Sean Simpson about a month and a half ago. He works with Ottawa Radio, but he was a goalie in the NHL. He had some management experience, and he told me about former teammates that were playing for expansion teams. And the interesting thing was the take was they got a fresh start. They had a clean slate, and they enjoyed.
There is nothing like that for a player. No question about it. I agree with you, Russ. Go ahead.
I'll add one other point here, and I think this is something else. So as much as we're talking about and comparing Vegas to Seattle, I do wonder how much pressure Francis might have been under if Vegas had won a cup already. They have not. They've been successful. They've been to the final. They've made some runs, but they haven't surmounted the mountain yet, and they are in a constant cap situation. Constantly having to, and again, they have to subtract from one critical area of their lineup to another area of their lineup that they feel that they need to. Peter Angelo situation. They felt they needed a number one, but now they take away from the center from good solid center depth that they've had prior to that. That Stevenson is now ostensibly your number one center. And again, DeBoer has adjusted his system to account for that, but again, they have not been able to get to the top of the mountain yet. So I think this allows Francis to say, you know what? They haven't won the whole thing yet. We're not under any pressure right now. We're going to do things our way, how we want to build it.
Well, what's fascinating about that to me, Anthony, is that, and what you said, Russ, and Kevin, this kind of ties into that too. Like, Vegas is definitely up against the cap. But if you were to ask players around the league, if they were doing an informal poll of the team that you'd like to play on besides your own team, I bet Vegas comes up as on the top of top of the list. I mean, there is just an unbelievable amount of people who the players all think is exciting. They would all love to go there.
Yeah, but Vegas is also getting a reputation in terms of bailing on players like very quickly after signing them. That's not a good reputation down the line to get.
But no player thinks that's going to be them. Like that. The players don't think that way. They all think that I'm going to be the guy who's going to go to Seattle. I'm going to be the guy who goes to Vegas. I'm going to be the guy who helps them win this cup. Kevin, is that true? Do you think they all want to go there?
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I disagree with Mike. I think right now, even though there are players who look at that, I agree with you that no player ever thinks it's going to be him. They think, they're going to watch me play, and they're going to want to keep me not only for the length of my contract, but 5 years after that. That's just the confidence of the NHL player, and I do think there's just a real fascination with getting to Vegas.
And I think
everybody just thinks, well, that's just cool.
It seems like, so I can wear this hat proudly now.
I'm sure that Nate Schmidt is of that opinion. But
again, you're accounting for maybe two players that probably have been that we've had public dissatisfaction. Schmidt possibly, but also, and Fleury, and who else?
Paul Stastny,
but again, he still ends up back in Winnipeg where he was fairly successful.
Yeah, but he chose Vegas over Winnipeg and then gets sent.
But it's also hot newsflash. It's a business.
Well, and the owner wants to win, and no players want to go places where the owner wants to win. They know that. They know that the owner wants to win there. I mean, this was a big appeal in Detroit in the past. This is a big appeal in Philadelphia in the past. You have an owner that definitely wants to win. When that changes, it changes the whole dynamic. They know that they could be gone, but they also know that if they're on that team, that owner is going to do everything they can to get the best player they can get at the trade deadline, the best player they can sign. They know they're going to keep getting better. All that matters to players a lot.
The one thing I'll give credit to the NHL, at least with the two expansion teams over the last couple of years, they've gotten in on the ground floor, so to speak. I mean, with Vegas, they broke the ceiling there. Now, obviously the Raiders were going to come in. Now the rumor is that the Oakland A's are going to move to Vegas, but the Vegas Golden Knights are the first, and I think they still have that sort of feeling in the hearts of the fans there.
I agree.
In Seattle, you had the Mariners, you had the Seahawks, but the NHL got back in before the NBA did. Now, there's a history there with the NBA, but I think that the fact that the NHL got in is going to hold this franchise in good stead.
Yep. All right, now we're bringing up Carson Trensky again. We were talking about him earlier. Russ, were you a little surprised? This is the Flyers.
Yeah, I think both Anthony and I were surprised at this. I mean, Dave Haxtell liked him as a player. He's a good player. He's a good skater. He played fourth line for the Flyers. Maybe he could play third line on an expansion team. But at the end of the day, I do feel like
only if he's swinging to the left wing, Russ. Only if he's swinging to the left wing.
Yeah, not as a center.
Too much depth there, I think, on the right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, not on the right wing. Not as a left winger, I would agree with you. But the idea is, it does make you think the Flyers swayed them to take Twarynski because I feel like they were better options, but again, maybe they were looking for
why would they sway them to take Twarynski?
Yeah, didn't the Flyers want him to take other guys?
If there was somebody that
them
they
to
were
take
going to take.
one of three, but if you're making James Van Riemsdyk available with a $7 million contract, you're making Jake Voracek available with an $8 million plus contract, and Shane Gostisbehere, I think this is just a case where Seattle said we aren't taking either of them, and we're looking at Twarynski as organizational depth that our coach is familiar with, and knows who he is, and that if we have injury, that we can feel comfortable putting him in on a fourth line and playing for us.
I did get some texts from some insiders that felt like there was something that went on with this one.
I think this is.
I can tell you.
Yeah, I can see.
Clearly, the fact that the Voracek or JVR or Gostisbehere all were fraught with peril in terms of not living up to the amount that they're making, and if it was 1 year, maybe they take these guys, but it's 2-3 years.
Right.
2 years in a flat. I think JVR was a possibility. I think Gostisbehere, had they not, and we still haven't gotten to that point of the draft yet in terms of who is officially on the team yet.
Right.
But there were some other options as well who could play the style that Gostisbehere plays.
Yeah.
And maybe better and maybe better defensively in this case.
Brandon Tanev.
I never thought Voracek was going to end up as a Seattle Kraken.
No.
So Brandon Tanev now on stage. Now Tanev's on stage there, and this is again. This to me is one of the steals that they got. I mean, that the Penguins let him go is baffling to me. Like,
this hurts the Penguins. There's no doubt.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. Completely agree.
And if it was because they promised Jeff Carter that he'd be protected, what a price to pay! And I don't know.
It's a huge price to pay, Mike. I mean, you're absolutely right in this instance. I couldn't agree more. It's a huge price to pay because, I mean, watching Tanev last year, the one thing I always felt about him was that when the Penguins, who at times looked great last year and at times looked terrible last year, they were all over the map. When the Penguins looked bad, Tanev still looked okay. Like, he always looked okay to me. He's
an active player, Eck. That's what it is about him. He's an active player. He's physical.
He also scores.
He gives you a little everything.
I mean, we were in Philly.
We
were in Philly. I know you were sitting in front of me, and Russ was next to me with no fans in the building when we watched Tanev put in 2 in that one game against the Flyers, and one was like this beautiful like 2-on-1 shot that he just took the shot and just it was. I mean, this kid was impressive. I mean, I'm just like, holy cow. How they possibly could have let him go.
Apparently, during the broadcast, Chris Fowler revealed that the opening game is going to be Seattle at Vegas.
Yep. Okay. I like it.
That's good. That'll get everybody up.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. That really is. And so Seattle's natural rivalry though will probably be Vancouver, right? I mean, this is the. They are the 2 cities that are closest. I think that's
the hope, Beck. But I spoke to some people that aren't quite sure of that because
if they have
it has to naturally evolve in and of itself. That's the thing. You want to say geographically, maybe, but usually the players and the teams are especially within the division. And we very well could see a Seattle-Vegas rivalry because of the 2 most recent teams added to the NHL, and we could see some pitch battle between those 2 teams.
Yeah,
for sure. Jerseys in the NHL.
They are 2 of the better. Now Vanacek, they're getting Vanacek from the Capitals, who is by far, in my opinion, one of the more fun goalies to watch play. Like, if you watch the highlights of Vanacek,
I like him a lot.
He's really exciting to play. He reminds me of like a smaller Pekka Rinne in his style. He's between Rinne, Hasek-ish, he's very aggressive out on the angles. More so than Hasek. He's out on the angles more like Rinne, but he's also like he's really good down low, a lot like Hasek. Makes some crazy saves. I think this guy's going to be. I kind of feel like he's the starter. I
think it's a 1-on-1A situation right now. I think Dridger may have probably more pub because of what happened with Florida this season, but I do not see him as the clear-cut starter per se. Over Vanacek based off a talent set.
I would agree with Anthony.
That were not for Vanacek, the Capitals this year would have been in trouble. Like, they really big time trouble. Like,
but again, we have to credit. Sorry, you go first, Mike.
Look what Francis is paying for his 3 goaltenders. Decord and Vanacek are both under $1 million, and Dreger, if the reports are correct, is 3.3. Compared to the $10.5 million monstrosity, he's doing a pretty decent job.
Two things here. So we have to give Washington and guys like Ross Mahoney credit for over-marinating Vanacek. They did a good job. They left him in the AHL for a while.
I don't know if it's an over-marination in this case. I think they brought him up at the right time. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but again, a lot of teams probably – he had talent, and a lot of teams may have been, tempted earlier. And then the other part is Decord is a terrific goalie. When I saw Gustafson on the save list, I personally didn't get it. I liked Gustafson 3 years ago. I don't like him as much now. Decord's father is a great goalie coach, and he's a terrific goalie. He's already proved himself a little bit on the pro level and a lot in the college level, and there's some upside with him. Like that's a good pickup.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Guys, this is why they probably didn't take Kakinen and went with Susi from Montreal, from Minnesota. Also,
I mean, Kakinen still would have been good to take. Like you could have traded one of these.
It was a coin flip between Vanacek and Kakinen. We heard a lot about. It was a lot of noise about how much they like Kakinen. But again, you have to make a decision. You got to look at if these are your goalies. And you're not looking to add one and then flip one.
Right.
You got to commit. I think in this case, you have to commit.
But I think you can argue in terms of what you said with Washington. Look, Vanacek had runs where he was very good. Minnesota without Kakinen isn't making the playoffs this year because when Talbot was out, he was actually pretty darn good in net for the Wild.
Yeah. I love this kind of thing. But I heard this earlier today too. Someone texted me this. That Marc-Andre Fleury's wife was seen buying a house today in Sewickley, PA. Which would, obviously, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh, not obviously, but that is a suburb.
He might just settle there too. He was there for a lot of years.
That's where what lives?
Mario lives in Sewickley.
And so does Sid. Okay. I think Sid lives there too.
Right.
In Sewickley.
2 blocks away from Mario's.
So there you go. So I mean, this is interesting in some ways. Are we looking at are we going to see this possibly? Are we going to see Marc-Andre Fleury to Pittsburgh? Is that going to happen? I
don't think this decides if it's going to happen or not.
If they can manage, again, there's a need for a goaltender, and again, if Vegas is once again looking to get a pivot and add a center to their lineup. Which I think they desperately need.
Yeah.
That money could, if they're able to move, Fleury for and close to, if not at his full cap hit. I'd say we use that money.
Yeah.
Okay. No, Zach. No way, because the last thing that Vegas wants to do is take back cap space. They want to clear the $7 million. Sure. So no, I don't think they would take Jari.
No.
Now the thing is, this is what I don't get. The rumors are out there. Elliot Friedman mentioned it, and somebody else mentioned it as well about New Jersey and Robin Lehner. It's like, why would New Jersey want Robin Lehner when they have Mackenzie Blackwood? And they said, well, Tom Fitzgerald believes in 1A and 1B. I'm like, yeah, but you're talking about $5 million for your one.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fit. I don't think
it's a fit, but.
Yeah, I really don't think it's a fit either.
Tyler Pitlick apparently will be the pick of Arizona. Yep, there you go.
We often talked about Tyler Pitlick.
Pitlick, who is, by far, I mean, they've in Philadelphia, there's so much talk about Pitlick,
and also Dallas. He was a good player in Dallas too. They should have kept him in Dallas.
The Flyers couldn't keep him for the price that he was they couldn't match the price that he was offering.
I also thought that Nick Albe-Cabell could, at his price point, I think would be able to deliver a similar style of play to what.
Yeah, that $1.75 million just is going to crush your cap.
No, the weird thing is though Fisher is a better goal scorer. They had the same amount of points. Now Pitlick's a good penalty killer, and if they have a team thing in mind, they want to have him on the penalty kill. That's fine. But Fisher's also 4 years younger. Like it's just that's a little bit of a weird one. But again, in a team building concept. That's what happens.
You have to keep that in mind. If you're a team building concept, they may get that kind of player elsewhere.
Correct.
Yeah,
and it may not be tonight.
Yeah, he's got some skill too, a little bit. Tanev and Pitlick have some similarities in their games. He's got some goals. They do give, they have a lot of the Seattle Kraken is definitely drafting some players with some, anger type issues. Like they've got some sandpaper on the team. They have sandpaper on the team. They do.
Now wait a second. Gary,
I like it.
Gary Payton and Sean Kemp are on stage right now, and the stage is not big enough to hold all of Sean Kemp's kids.
Really, Mike? You had to really always another bet that I just have to go cash into the betting website. When is Mike going to say something completely inappropriate on the show? Here we go.
The better bet is Mike if Mike isn't going to say something inappropriate.
I speak the truth.
No, you just speak to be.
I'm going to call that inappropriate as well. Sometimes my grandmother used to say, some things are left best unsaid. So
5 out of 5 say you've been inappropriate. So
hold on, let me go. I got a bar of soap for Michael. Next time he drops anything, he's going to have to eat it.
That's a Hall & Oates song.
No, but heck, I do think there's something to be said about they do want a certain amount of players that play physical. There's no question they're shooting for that.
Yeah. And even going beyond just being physical, they want to be hard to play against.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why they signed the free agent defenseman. That's why a lot of these guys that they've signed, because they all are hard to play against. And I'm sure they'll poke their nose in the Blake Coleman. And if Goodrow doesn't sign with the Rangers, I'm sure they'll look at him as well, because I think that's one of their goals.
Yeah, I think they're doing. And again, I've heard again today from somebody else who does agree with me that one of their game plans would be definitely to reunite that line.
The question I have though is we talk all this time about Tyler Johnson makes the most sense for Seattle because he's from Spokane, and you haven't. And maybe we'll hear Tyler Johnson getting traded there, but
right
now. But now, okay, you look if you're Tampa Bay. Unless you're moving Stamkos back to center, you have Point on your first line, Cirelli as your second line center. Yeah. You might need Tyler Johnson as your third line center, unless you simply just can't afford him.
Yeah.
Therein lies. Yeah, that's the.
People who live in Seattle, they have been. Are we going to say they've been Canucks fans if they're hockey fans, or have they been Sharks fans?
They've been Seattle Thunderbirds fans.
Thunderbirds, yes.
There you go.
No, but they've been NHL fans.
There are some Canucks fans, to be sure. I have a friend that lives in Seattle who, goes to 1 or 2 or 3 Canucks games every year.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour drive, so it's not that bad unless you're taking a bus like Russ and I did. That was a 4-hour.
San Jose is like a lot further away than that, so it's like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah, it's probably a 6 or 7 hour.
I think maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, but yeah, it depends on how you go, of course. But yeah, so this is that's always interesting to me. When the Ottawa Senators came into town, for example, that was there were the split between Montreal and Toronto in Ottawa, basically. Some Canadians fans, some Leafs fans.
By the way,
it kind of fascinates me what happens to a fan base, when suddenly they have an NHL team. If they're real hockey fans, who they've been rooting for the whole time. But that's why the Red Wings have so many natural rivals, because Blue Jackets. Columbus people were Red Wings fans. Nashville people were Red Wings fans. They all were. They ended up coming into the league, and suddenly Red Wings were the big arch rivals. So,
by the way, Vancouver will be the first home game for the Kraken.
There you go.
Oh, Vancouver, not Vegas. That makes sense.
Vegas is
home game.
First home game. I apologize. Home game.
They open on the road. That's kind of weird.
Jersey in the first game, and the blue in the second one.
Isn't it strange to open on the road?
Is the arena? So I guess the question is, what is the timeline for the arenas to be ready? That could be another factor.
Thought it was supposed to be ready. Climate Pledge Arena.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, they may.
Oh, this is cool.
The Islanders, the UBS Arena is not going to be ready right away. They can open on the road.
No, it won't be ready right away.
Probably the first couple of weeks.
So what they're doing right now on the TV is they're showing a guy hiking up Mount Rainier. I've hiked this exact trail that he's on. It's pretty cool.
I thought he was a hockey player because he was missing a tooth.
They're making the Alexiak pick from the top of Mount Rainier. It's an amazing place. I spent my son and I spent like several hours hiking there, and the coolest thing about it when we were up there was there's a lot of wild like mountain goats that are out there, and they're kind of dangerous. They're big and they're really hairy. They look like animals right out of the Star Wars kind of. And we watched from the top of a mountain as about 12 wolves circled this whole group of mountain goats, and like they planned their attack. They planned their attack together because we were up on the mountain looking down at this. It was really cool. Mount Rainier's we saw this whole whole thing go down with these wolves and these goats. But yeah, this is Mount Rainier is so freaking beautiful. I mean, there's some beautiful parts.
Yeah.
Parts.
Jamie Alexiak out on stage now with that missing his tooth.
Missing the teeth, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big man, really big man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really big.
They'll call him the Space Needle.
Yep, I do think that he's going to thrive there. I think he's going to become a star there. We'll see. You guys don't think so?
No,
I think he's going to be.
Is probably over to it. Will he be? It's
he could be popular.
If you're Seattle, you want him to do what he did this year with Dallas, and maintain it. Any expectation above that is a cherry on top of the sundae. You want consistent, solid, strong physical play.
Yeah.
That is what Alexiak needs.
Yeah, he does. He's a rare breed of a combination of things right now. And honestly, I know you guys aren't on board yet, but I think that
we didn't say we're not on board with Jamie Alexiak.
Defenseman, guys.
I'm not on board with the salary.
I'm on board with him as a foundational piece for their defense.
Yeah.
He's not
the expectation that he turned. You're giving the impression that he's going to turn into Zdeno Chara.
Right.
No, I'm not. He's not a Chara. He's not a Pronger, but he's in the level below that kind of player.
No, see, this is the thing.
We're stretching it out there.
Okay, is Alexiak a great or good NHL defenseman? No. Is he he's an okay.
He's a good NHL defenseman, Mike.
No, he on a bad team he's a 4, and this is an expansion team. On a good team, he's a 5 or 6.
Mm-mm.
I think at this point, Mike, I'm willing to give him that he is. I think he is a solid 4.
He was a 4 on Detroit.
I don't think he's a 5 or
Dallas
6.
I've seen
enough from him. I saw enough from him this year to say confidently that, say, Philadelphia had signed him, I would have been looking at him and saying he and Travis Sanheim makes sense as a second pair on the fly.
Totally. So
in that respect, I will say that I think he is a good number 4 defenseman in this circumstance. So if you want to say that 4.6 is a little high of a premium, he was potentially going to get, potentially upwards, maybe more than that in free agency. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they paid a premium for him, but I think he is a foundational piece for the Kraken defensively. Yeah. But I don't want to go overboard with what he can potentially.
Do not call him a good defenseman. I think that's absurd.
Well, okay.
I do need to point out this is the most messed up that I've ever seen Dave Hackstall's hair. It's a little windblown.
Yeah.
Usually it's like perfect. Every hair is perfectly aligned, and this time it's not. This is a good look for Hack. He should go with this not perfect hair.
This is pretty much. I mean, when he first came in, Hack during the
this is a little looser on the side, though. It is
maybe.
Alexiak the last 3 years has been making $2.1 million.
Yes,
I think he's a $3 million defenseman.
But last year was he just came out like crazy. He was so much better than he was the other 2 years.
He pushed hard. I thought he had much like Larson rounded into shape this year. So too did I think Alexiak in terms of what is expected of them. So Seattle is paying a premium for both guys, but that said, I think they fit for as foundational pieces on their defense.
Right. Okay, so I have a question here. I'm going to somebody brought up to me today. It's really interesting. There is a player in the NHL who Hackstall is very, very close to. That player is Jonathan Toews. Jonathan Toews and Hackstall are very tight. Whenever
days,
when Toews came to Philadelphia, they would always get together. They'd always be seen together talking in the hallway. They text each other all the time. Toews and Hackstall just have a real admiration and a friendship. As Toews gets on here, I would not be shocked if we start hearing the rumors of that. Obviously we hope to see Toews return this year. We want to see him back and everything going well for him. But if assuming Toews is back and doing really well, I wouldn't be shocked at all if we saw that.
I would be very shocked because I think the reason they made that video, the way they branded it with the Blackhawks, with Taves coming back, was to get Blackhawks fans excited, not to get any other fan base excited.
No,
like,
not
hey,
right now, Russ. I'm not talking about now. I'm not talking about this year.
What are we talking about?
I'm not even talking about maybe next year, but I'm saying that at some point I could see that.
Okay, at some point. Okay.
I'm not saying this year or next year.
Yeah, because I don't think it will happen this year.
Yeah. Oh, the details on Alexiak's contract are out. 3.5 in year 1, 4.25 in year 2, $6 million in year 3.
Backload.
Yeah, 5.5 in year 4 and 3.75 in year 5. And no trade clause in the first 3 years.
So they're anticipating that he is going to reach. He's going to reach apex. Now he's how old? Alexiak, 20 or 29? 28. So they're anticipating an age 30, age 31 career, close to career year.
I think that's honestly, as good as I think the Larson deal is, and I've been critical of Larson, I think this is a bad deal.
I mean, bigger defensemen develop. I mean, Tom Laidlaw says this all the time. Bigger defensemen develop slower. They just do, right?
Yeah, a lot of defensemen.
They also age quickly. They also age quickly.
They can. It depends on how many injuries they have, But you see guys like, I mean, there's no question that Alexiak is coming into his own at 28, and he wasn't a good NHL defenseman at 24, 25. But he's, but at 28, he is. At 30, he could be a very good defenseman.
I think the best line is that he's not even the best athlete in his family.
That is always the line, unfortunately. But she's an Olympian, so
that's very original, Michael.
Well, I know a lot.
All right, but I'm going to give you the flip side, though. At 23, soon to be 24, Logan Stanley has broken through. So it's like, again, like there was someone in the chat room that said playing with Heiskanen does help your career. There's no question about it. I've got to see him flat-footed, doing it on his own, playing 20-something minutes on his own. Let's see how he does, because I think this is a little bit above his pay grade. I do.
Well, time will tell. I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot because it seems like a fun topic that we all disagree on, which is always good.
He is a great guy. I like the guy.
Yeah. All right, I think we're just about out of time here, basically. We're not seeing anything going down as far as trades go. I don't want to take up everybody's night. And
it'll happen as soon as we sign off.
As soon as we sign off, it'll go. But we did put a good hour in here, guys. I want to thank everybody for watching. All I can say now is we are really entering into the next 2 days. I mean, in normal conditions, we're a day ahead. We're so close to the draft now. This is the insanity of what's happening over the week right here is just crazy. So keep on top of things. We'll be Friday.
Can I ask Kevin one question, because I think he would have a good answer for this, and I don't know when we'll have him again. Kevin, what do you think Ken Holland's thinking is now with losing Adam Larson like that? That's a blow he probably wasn't counting on.
No, for sure, Russ. And, just reading on social media, the fan base is not going to let him forget this. I mean, just last week we were hearing 8-year deal. But the thing that worried me about that 8-year deal, and I've said this on, radio shows, the fact that it started with a 3, I thought was a little insulting. For Larson, just with all that he's kind of put into it. To get him that low, I mean, that's that I thought that was too low, and clearly it was. He went and got out of there, and he was so important to that team. Like, this is another guy. Like, he's not a an all-star great defenseman, but he was very vital.
He's solid.
Yeah, just very solid. Yeah, so now that becomes as big an issue as anything else they have.
Yeah, and the thing that's
is
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
No problem. I'm good.
The thing that's interesting is on the heels of this, it broke tonight from I think Jason Gregor that the Oilers are meeting with Zach Hyman, and the talk of a sign and trade to get Hyman the 8 years. Okay, you give Zach Hyman 8 years at 29 years old, and depending on what you're paying him, if the number starts with a 5, That's really what the Edmonton Oilers need, is another high-priced forward when their defense has been decimated by an injury to Klefbom and a departure of Larson, and you've re-signed Mike Smith as your starting goaltender. Maybe not starting goaltender, but one of your goal. If he's the backup, fine. If he's your starter, I'll renew my prediction that they'll not make the playoffs.
Well, I think the rumors also is they may be revisiting Tyson Barrie all over again because they've lost.
And he's a great,
but again, I
don't think the number with Hyman. You give Hyman 8 years in general. I just think it's a bad contract, irrespective of the number.
Yeah,
I like Hyman, and there's I like the idea of Hyman playing with a McDavid and with a Draisaitl. I think it could be a really, really, really good line.
It could be,
but at that cost and where you have needs. It's not bad. It's not a good move.
I don't know. Mike and I disagree on this. I'm not afraid of $5 million contracts.
No.
When you're starting getting up at 10, I can see it. But, a 10 million contract is two $5 million contracts. Like, I'm not really bothered by that. One GM explained to me that when he was talking about an $85 million payroll, and we're not there. But he said, you always start out thinking, I'm going to have $7 or $8 million players. And so now you're trying to find 15 for 75. That's an average of $5 million a player.
Well, so, Kevin, in and of itself. Sorry.
So, I just don't know that that's a bad contract. I think that's a good number.
But 8 years, Kevin, at age 20.
Kevin, you give him 8 years, 42 million?
I'm against 8-year contracts in general, particularly with COVID going on. But so I wouldn't. But I think they can absorb $5 million without getting into the place.
In and of itself, a $5 million contract for Hyman, even if it's 8 years, isn't bad. But the thing, I wouldn't give him 8 years. But the thing I have is on top of McDavid at 12.5, on top of Draisaitl at 8.5, and now you've paid Nugent Hopkins 5, spreading out the AAV. They're allocating too much money on forwards when they need to address their defense and their goaltending, because that is what's killed them over the last few years.
Yeah, but that's $30 million for 4 players.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's outrageous.
Yeah,
I think there's plenty of room. You've got to be careful, but I think every team has that essentially. For some teams it might be 30 some, for some it might be 28, but everybody's got like 4 players that they're paying a lot of money to.
Yeah, and Hyman has shown what he can do. He's a great fit for. He can play with star players, which is another thing that is important for them. I mean, Edmonton needs guys who can come in and play with star players, and that's what you see. That's what you clearly see with him. I still think at the end of the day, I'm not buying that Toronto's going to let him go.
I get that. If I'm Edmonton, I don't bring in Tyson Barrie. I mean, I would give Evan Bouchard a chance. It can be better in the future than Tyson Barrie defensively, and he has the same kind of offensive skill. And it's like, I don't know why I'm bringing in Barrie. I already have Darnell Nurse. He's running my power play. I need to actually get a guy who could defend. That's what I really would want to bring in for Edmonton.
Well, you had it and you lost it.
Right, but they need another one.
I thought Keith will
figure getting another one at that price point.
I mean, Keith will do a little bit, but
I think you would like to have someone who has I like Keith as a piece to sort of augment what would have been there if Larson was still there.
Yes.
Now, without that, again, I need to see who Edmonton replaces, because, again, asking a 38-year-old Duncan Keith to cover almost a lot of areas for Edmonton.
I mean, they're probably FaceTiming Ryan Suter now because he wants to make a decision by Monday, right? So,
is that the deal? Know what they're saying?
Yeah, he said it. I think I saw on Twitter where he's saying he wants to make a decision by Monday or something.
He does. Wow, that's something. That's surprising.
If that's true, that's what I saw on Twitter. Yeah.
We'll stay in touch with all the trades here for sure, and we got to make sure you do keep in touch, because we're gonna have a lot of things. The rumor tracker is gonna be launching tomorrow on HockeyBuzz, which is always fun. And for those asking, the my favorite cephalopod by far would be the cuttlefish, which is like this thing's incredible. So it hypnotizes its prey by changing colors and flashing at. Look at it. Like, this is what it can do.
Cool.
The cuttlefish is the coolest animal alive.
Have you cuddled a cuttlefish?
No, it's CUT. But look at what it can do. It can it's like it's a superhero of like up-teen proportions.
Yeah, the light show is amazing.
It can do that. It just hypnotizes its little creatures. It's so incredibly smart. It can change colors and shapes. It can grow little sticks out of it. It can pretend to be coral. Look at that. It can pop up and be coral right when it goes past coral. Insane. Anyway, there you have it. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Enjoy.